Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Really important video, what to do if you get caught out in salt water with your vehicle, okay? Really important video, and hopefully it never happens to you, and I might even give you some tips and ways to avoid it happening. But we're going to just quickly talk about, well, not quickly actually, the first part will be quick, the next part will take a little bit longer, and it'll just get longer and longer because that's what happens, right? You want the quick part, hang around for as long as you like, but I'm going to just open your mind a bit and get you thinking about what sort of damage salt water might do to what components of the vehicle and what to do to them to protect them from that damage that could happen if it's not rectified ASAP. So let's get started. Firstly, number one, don't get caught out in salt water. Don't drive your vehicle in salt water. Just don't do it, okay? So we see people in Australia on Fraser Island, places like that, getting around some points at the wrong time of the tide. There's not much beach left and you see them driving through little bits of salt water. Well, that's bad enough, yeah, definitely. But what's worse than that is constantly driving it in deep salt water. Now, I'll give you a little tip, right? Boat trailers. Boat trailers are galvanized. Galvanized, you know, hot dip galvanized is the best protection you can probably get for a piece of steel. And guess what? Not that many uses, and unless they're rinsed off, the coating eventually goes and they rust also. And even the components, depending once again where they're made, the quality, that sort of thing, like springs and stuff like that, guess what? Yep, it all rusts eventually. So it's just a matter of time. So a vehicle, it's not meant for salt water. It hasn't got that sort of level of rust protection. So it's very important that you don't drive it in salt water. Now, even having the vehicle near salt areas, like living near the beach, salt spray and stuff like that, it's definitely going to have a huge impact on the vehicle. And it's every component from around the paintwork, around the edges and things where it gets in first and starts flaking the paintwork, through to the chassis and all the any other bare metal components. So there's some protection you can do to avoid having too many issues, but the biggest issue is actual salt water. So if I was on Fraser Island and for whatever reason I misjudged the tide or the conditions changed, some storm came over and it washed the beach away, I am going to rock hop over rocks, up through soft sand, on soft sand, whatever I need to do, make a track with the shovel at the edge of the sand dune, whatever I've got to do to get that vehicle off the salt water and avoid that, really, you know. Maybe I'm being a bit crazy, but let me explain to you. All right, so maybe not. And the first thing I'm going to do, right, and this is probably the most important part of the whole video, there you go, 3 minutes, wash it off ASAP. So not in a day, not in 2 days, not in a week, not in a month, not in a year, while it's still wet if you can. ASAP, as soon as possible, you need to get to a lot of fresh water. And I don't mean a pressure washer and you've got to put a lot of pressure on it. Pressure isn't going to do anything. What you need is a lot of water, a lot of rinsing. You want to get rid of all that salt. I'm not too worried about sand. And what do you think? You need to worry about sticking the hose in the chassis and all that sort of thing? Yeah, well, you can do that, but if it's spray or a light spray, or you've driven through the edge of some waves at the beach, it's not likely going to get into the inside of your chassis. It's going to be sprayed everywhere else, okay? So just a rinse with a lot of water is probably the main thing. Now, let's just go next level, right? Let's say, you know, for whatever reason, you got caught in that storm or you're completely stuffed up, right? And you're actually driving in, what, 300 mil of salt water, and it's spraying all around your wheels and tires and brakes and around the wheel. Oh, it's making me feel sick. Even worse than that, let's say 500 mil deep. That's like just above the halfway up your wheel, really, you know. I mean, a wheel's about 800, okay? Let's go next level. Let's go somewhere between 500, half a meter, and 800 millimeters depth of salt water, and you're driving through it for like a minute or 2 or 3. That, in my mind, is catastrophic. I'd probably have I'd probably have heart failure if I was in my 120. This one right here. If I was in the 120 and that happened, I would probably have heart failure. You wouldn't want to be near me. I wouldn't be in good condition at all. That's how bad I believe it is from what I've seen. I've only been around less than 50 years, but you know, from when I was young with Dad, you know, maintenance on the boat trailers, boats, going fishing every weekend, both days on the weekend, going fishing. But and what I've seen at the boat ramp, you learn a lot when you're young if you hang around with your dad, not the mates, not the wrong people, right? So your dad and his mates is there for any young. This is the other problem we've got, right? We've got all these people watching, it's awesome, but I've got to tell you, and it's really good, but most of the age range of the people is, how do I say this? The most popular age is probably about 40, and it tapers off either way. So people under 20 and over 70, there's a lot less, right? So it just tapers. There's like a hill in the middle, right? And that's not where the population is. So all the older people, they're busy doing whatever they're doing, so they don't care. Fair enough. Maybe I get it. Maybe they're not into technology. They don't do this. Maybe, you know, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, you can, because we've certainly got a lot of old, awesome people on our, you know, social media, Facebook pages and whatever, in those groups, and watching on our YouTube channels. But the real concern is the young people that aren't there. Like, where are the 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and the 20 and 25-year-olds? I believe there should be more of them wanting to get themselves educated. So if you're listening to this and you agree, send this to your sons and daughters and cousins and nephews and nieces and anybody that you care about, and tell them, just watch the whole video, because there's so much information in my videos and it's designed to help people. We're not here to sell you a damn thing that you don't need. We've got some kits available, again, designed to help you, stuff that you can't get the right stuff elsewhere, and you need the service to go with it so that you can do it yourself and save even more money. Like, where's the problem? Is this not a no-brainer? Anyway, let's get back onto it. So the salt water, right? Really bad stuff. Let's just have a think about it for a minute. So you've driven through 600-700 mil of salt water for a minute. Oh, mate, I'm out of there, mate. I've passed. Sorry. You know. So you know, you can take the vehicle and do what you want with it. Really. The first thing I would do, I would probably try and find a local CFA and go and borrow their big hose, right? And I would be absolutely dousing the, and I'm not talking pressure, I'm talking a lot of water. So just the nozzle, top to bottom, heaps of water, wheel arches, engine bay, anything that bloody moves, okay? I want water in there, right? And I want all that rinsed out. So that's the first thing. I'll go into a bit more detail what components soon. I want to give it a massive rinse out, heaps of water. You get the picture? I'm going to keep repeating myself till you get the picture. I'm going to be there for an hour. It depends how much water's coming out the hose. An hour, if it's a good hose, probably an hour, maybe half an hour if, you know, I'm planning to get to another location and spend another 2 hours. But if I've got a good hose, probably, you know, half an hour. And then what I'm going to do next is, not in any urgency really, but as soon as possible, I'm going to give it some spray. And I don't care if you're using WD-40, CRC, RP7, Inox, any sort of thing. And I'm not talking to fish oil at this stage, I'm just talking general Inox spray is probably the one that I'd pick, the Inox, right? The MX, what is it, MX3, 4, I don't know, can't remember, there's a few different numbers there, I always get mixed up. It's either 3 or 4, I think. General purpose, whatever, right? So I'd be spraying, again, any metal part that's not painted. So you're not spraying your paintwork and your windscreen and your lights, you're spraying your chassis, your bull bar, any area around there, that sort of thing. No worries, you can go in there, we're patient, no problem. You can just cut everyone, anybody else. Anyway, give it some spray, right? And do it. You don't do this in your garage because the place is going to stink and it's getting oily and sticky. You need to work out a place. I don't know what you've got, but you know, it could be a out on the road situation, whatever the case may be, so that you're not stinking out, you know, for what's blowing around in the air is not, you know, sticking everything in your workshop or whatever. So it's an outdoors thing. Okay, lots of spray. I've just got to look the other way for a minute. Give way, give way. Got a few cars to go. So lots of spray, and I don't want to take it on a dusty dirt road then either, because all the dust is just going to stick to it. But dust is a lot better than salt water, so I'm not worried about. And don't spray it on your brakes, like your disc brakes and stuff like that. I mean, you know, the brakes are going to dry it, burn it off and dry it up anyway, but just avoid doing that because you might get in and put your foot on the brake and nothing's going to happen. So then what I would do, after I've sprayed that and after letting it soak a few days, right, a few days, whether it's 2 days or a week, whatever the case may be, I'd give it another wash. Okay, now this wash is going to be degreaser, you know, the Kenco stuff we use. Well, you know, people can talk about what to use and whatnot. I don't care, I'm just telling you, this is what we use, we like it, we talked about it. It's in other videos. If you haven't seen the other videos, get onto them. You've got some catching up to do. The Kenco, I just sort of mix it about 20%, and in my little cheap sprayer bottle from Bunnings Aqua Systems for $5, whatever it is, the 2-litre sprayer, pump it up, and I'd be degreasing the wheels, the wheel arches, the chassis, everything. I'd be giving it all a good spray down, including the engine bay. Again, not heaps of pressure needed, but I would be more likely to, hang on, get rid of that call. I'd be more likely to be able to use a pressure washer in this case, in this circumstance, because what I'm going to do is, when I get it really clean, I'm going to put up on the hoist for you. You might be getting down on the ground, whatever the case may be, but I'm going to put it up on the hoist, and I'm going to actually use a can of touch-up paint, like the Bunnings Fiddly Bits, whatever. And I'm not going to make it look untidy, but I'm just going to, any areas that have got surface rust, which were probably there already, it's now time to do a bit of maintenance and go above and beyond, and I'm just going to here and there, and I might have some rags or bits of cardboard to block other components from getting painted. And like the rear diff, for example, you know, the housing, this sort of thing, the chassis, I'm going to give it some touch-ups, you know what I mean? It's all going to get dusty and dirty and everything another day, so I'm going to do that. And you know, if the situation was that bad, after the paint dries, you know, a couple of days later, I'm probably even going to go and spray it again. That's how crazy I'm going to be about salt water. Okay, now I'm going to tell you why, which components. I haven't got much time left. I'm just going down here to Four Drive Supercenter to pick up a winch. And you know what? This stuff's cheap, but I get it when it's cheap. $3.98 for the winch with the recovery pack as well, right? And when it comes to full driving and recoveries, a little bit off topic for a minute, you don't need to spend drug money. You just need to not put the vehicle in the situation where you need to use the gear, but you need to sometimes have the gear for just in case you need it. Now, we haven't used winches for years. We go everywhere, never had a problem. But we're setting up a vehicle to get next level crazy, the Hilux, and it needs a winch on there as a backup plan for some of the things we're planning to do. So stay tuned, of course, on our other channel, 4x4 Adventures, if you want to see that. Okay, so the sort of components that are going to get damaged. Wow, you know, where do we start with water that deep? So if the water's that deep that it's into your engine bay, your fan's hitting the water at all and spraying water everywhere, you know, you're looking right there, your fan hub, your drive belt, your bearings, you know, those bearings that come in the BFE kit, you know, the fan, it's spraying salt water over everything, into your alternator. Oh, how bad is this, you know? This is why it's so bad, because there's no end to the amount of components that it's going to do damage to. Right, so there we're already at alternator. Was it deep enough that some got up near the starter motor level? Was it up there? You know, I don't know. The starter motor's got a little drain thing on it, but you know, I'm telling you now, salt water, it's like changing a Toyota into, it's not even 1/100th as good as your cheapest Chinese manufactured heap of rubbish. I don't know if I've gone the right way, actually. I'm going under. Yeah, they changed the road here. It's doing my head in. Yeah, I think, oh no, we'll go down here anyway, but I think maybe we're meant to go, I don't know. Anyway, we'll work it out. Change the road and underpass with the train thing. Supercenter's just the other side of the bridge, so I don't know if we're meant to go off this exit ramp to the left. This could be handy information, anyone to the local area sort of thing. We'll see how it goes. Right, so you get my picture though, right? The belt, the bearings, the water pump, the starter motor, the alternator, onto your engine. There's not many moving components. It's just going to look untidy, surface rust, that sort of thing. So then you've got, you know, so I suppose under the engine bay, you know, any electronics, depends how far it went, you know, not good. Or even your battery connections, if you get enough spray around your battery terminals, that sort of thing. But underneath the vehicle, again, brakes, calipers, rotors, you know, wheel bearings, you know, salt water getting in behind, and it rusts up the surfaces of the steel, and that's where the rubber seals have to go over those metal surfaces and seal it. Never going to be the same again, likely to possibly leak prematurely, if not really soon. You know, moving parts, steering racks, you know, how sealed was that rack? How sealed were your CV boots? No entry. There's Kings on the right there, Four Drive Supercenter, that's the exit. So I think we've done the right thing up here, we'll just turn right. So you're trying to kill two birds with one stone, because busy. Aren't we, Mitch? Busy. So you get the picture. What else? Let's just think underneath the vehicle, right? So, you know, having it on the surface like your chassis, some people they think about the shed and they want to stick and just, oh, I left the hose in there for half an hour. Waste of time. You don't need the hose in there for half an hour. You need the hose up your tail shaft, uni joints, moving parts where the slip joints go in and into transmissions, surface rust while it's out, and then it goes in when it moves, when the suspension moves and stuff like that. And then bingo, you know what you've got, don't you? Yeah, possibly a leak. So many moving components, right? Whether it's at your diffs, right, where you know, pinions in and out, axles and axle seals, and just, it's untidy, right? Maybe I've made it sound worse than it is, but I want to paint a picture pretty bad because it is pretty bad. Like I said, I've seen it on boat trailers. They only see saltwater, you know, how often do people use boats? And I've seen some pretty average trailers. Right, there we are. Told you what I was doing. Yeah, now you know too much. Stay tuned. We might even have a winch installation video. We might not. We might have some safety tips videos. Not just trying to sell you all the stuff you don't need, like like some places, right? Reverse parking. Give me a sec, and we'll just wrap this one up. Okay, so when it comes to King's gear, I've got to tell you, let's go into them just for a minute. Right, a lot of it's cheap and it's good. When it comes to winches, this is the problem with a winch. You can spend thousands on a winch, you still need to do the maintenance. I don't know if it's going to last you forever. You spend a lot of money. I'm getting a winch for about, it probably works out to be $300 when you take all the recovery kit off it. $300. If it lasts a few years, you know what? Instead, the time it takes you in your life to do the servicing is probably worth more than $300 if you're on a sort of income you've got to be on to survive these days. So therefore, that's where it's a very wasteful market now. If somebody's got some time and they want to service and repair winches because they're not on the bigger money, then I'll give my winch to them for free when it's no longer working for whatever reason. Could be a simple repair, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people like that too. So if that's you, get on our Facebook groups like 4B4 Diesel and 4B4 Adventures, right? Same name as the two YouTube channels, and say, hey, I've got a winch that's not working. I think it's this or that. I don't know. Anybody want it, you can have it. And because there's people out there that have got the time. There's people that love fixing things and they've got the time to do it. So let's give them that opportunity. But for me, I'm not going to spend $1,000 or $2,000 on a winch on it for an old Hilux that's going to hit the tracks. I'm going to give this King's one a run, which I'm sure plenty of other people have. And I'm sure they've made improvements of the problems over the years. So fingers crossed. It's only a small investment. We'll get it on the Hilux, we'll get out there on the tracks, and we'll see if we still don't need to use it. But eventually, if we do, we'll have a video on that. So, salt water. Conclusion, if you've been in that much salt water, sell it. Just get rid of the thing, ASAP. No, just joking. You can do that. It's up to you. You've really got to think this one through. Only you were there at that particular situation that arose, or this information is for people in the future, what to do if it happens to them, right? So you need to work out how much water did we get, where did it go, and you can see that when you see obviously where the vehicle's wet. You were there at the time, okay? Bada bing, I don't know guys, you know, salt water, just avoid it, right? Check your tides, think about it, look at the sand. Is it smooth? Does the tide come up here? Am I going to be able to get back if the tide comes up? If I have a breakdown, like a flat tire, and it takes me, I don't know, I've got a seized up, I'm in a Hilux and my spare wheel release is seized up from lots of beach work and it's not working, and it takes you hours to get your spare wheel out and the tide comes up, is there enough, you know, plan, always have your plan B, C, D. This is just wise information for anybody that wants to listen. I know I told you it was going to be short or long. The longer you listen, the more information you get. The shorter you listen, the sooner you don't get the information. A lot of people love it. They're going to be here till the end. Do me a favor, right? If you did make it till the end, no comments, right? Or you can if you want. Yeah, put whatever comment. Everybody's free to do whatever they want. And shout out to Anonymity, whatever the name is. I can't remember exactly what it is. Yeah, that one. You know the one, mate. Every video, I reckon on both channels, I think, right? He puts emojis there. So for this one, guys, if you've noticed that also, smash the emojis on this one, mate. Thumbs up, smiley faces, whatever you want to put up. I don't really care. But it's emojis this time if you've got them on your keyboard. Bada bing, thanks for listening. I hope you get the saltwater thing. It's not for cars, right? Saltwater is not for cars. Freshwater rinsing is. Hey, another thing you can do, if this happens and you get saltwater, you got to think, where is my closest? See, this is why you wait till the end, mate. The pot of gold. Where is my nearest fresh water? So, for example, if you're inland somewhere, you're not going to see salt water. But, you know, if you're near the coast, Sometimes there's a river nearby that not too far upstream, there's a freshwater section of the river, or there's a lake. Now, I don't want you to lose your car in here, but I sometimes, I believe it or not, this is crazy, right? Sometimes I go to a boat ramp and just dunk the front and in and out, and the back in and out, and that's particularly when it's really muddy, middle of winter. Boat ramp where there's a lake, where it's just like a dirt boat ramp sort of thing, you know. So you're not like dumping heaps of mud or anything like that, but you're just giving it all a good rinse out, because what that does, it gives it a good bathing, just like the bath at home. It gives it a good soaking. So, for example, in the Prado, you've got the rear discs with the drums inside, Hilux's drums as well. You can wash as much as you like with the hose. It's hard to get the water inside there, okay? This is why you wait till the end. So if you've got a Prado and you've had salt water and you haven't given it a good bathing, you probably need to take the wheels off, the discs off, and give it all a good clean out and some spray, because it's already going to be going rusty. You get my picture? Hilux, inside that drum there, mate, get those wheels off. Or you go to your nearest lake, and it's too late now. You need to do this straight away. This is what I'm saying. So, for example, if I was on Fraser Island, then I'm going to go, where's my nearest freshwater creek? Like Eli Creek's the popular one, everybody knows. Mate, I'm going to get to Eli Creek, and I'm going to drive not through the creek, and don't get yourself bogged and stuck, but usually the creek's shallow, but it can have some undulating deep holes as the conditions change. I'll go to Eli Creek, I'll get out, check the conditions, and I'll jump in the creek and drive down the creek to get all that fresh water flowing around, in around all those moving parts we just spoke about. And if it goes to 1/2 metre deep as the salt water, bloody beautiful, because that's going to take care of 95% roughly of all my problems just doing that, because it's got all that salt off while it's still fresh. But I'm still going to hit it with a big hose. I'm still going to give it a treatment. Generally, if I do salt trips, I used to do a pre-treatment then after, but I've got to tell you, you just don't, if you're not driving in salt water, you don't need to do it. Just normal wash of the vehicle. If you do trips like Fraser or beach trips, you know, once, twice, few times a year or even less, all you've got to do is wash the vehicle and thoroughly, and you'll be right, as long as you haven't driven in salt water. Now, those creeks, just beware. Sometimes there's fresh water running out from inland. Sometimes it can be a tidal pool that's up high on the beach that when the tide goes out, it slowly runs off. So you could be driving through salt water sometimes, but quite often it's fresh water. It depends what country, what state, where you are, lots of variables, but I hope this information makes sense to you. I know, mate, haven't I waffled on this time? 22 minutes. Bada bing, bada boom. Thanks for watching, guys. You know, subscribe, turn the bell on. Like I said, share the video, hit the like button. Give it to all these younger people, because we're doomed if we can't get them educated. Thanks for watching and listening. See ya.